Road favorites are 15-1 straight up and against the spread since week 5. The only loss being those New York Jets because, of course, maybe Jordy Nelson can come out of retirement and help lead Aaron Rodgers and the power of friendship to the Super Bowl. I don't know, but I digress. We have two more favorites tonight as part of Monday Night Football's doubleheader as the Ravens head to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers and the Chargers take a short flight over to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tommy John studio in New York City. I am your host, Troy DiSturco, and this is Green Daily, coming to you live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. As always, we'll hear from Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen in just a sec on their favorite plays of Monday Night Football. We'll get a couple of props from them before they hop on their flights for Action Island. Grant Neiffer hops on for a little four-down territory where we break down the anytime touchdown market in depth, and Billy Ward and I concoct the same game parlay plus between both of the doubleheader games. So let's start by looking at the early game matchup between Baker Mayfield, who was the #1 overall pick in 2018, and Lamar Jackson, who went 32nd in the same draft. Both quarterbacks have led their team to a 4-2 record. Lamar, the defending MVP in this one, is among the favorites to repeat again this season at plus 500. As for Baker, he has looked pretty good in the pocket with over a 70% completion rate. He does have a 3-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio as well, coming off a 3 INT game last week rather, as we welcome in Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen to talk more about the doubleheader at hand. Guys, let's start with this Bucs-Ravens game. Nick, I'm going to kick it to you first because you have a play on a total targeting the first half here, so tell me more about this.
Yeah, I gave a little head fake to the Discord. I was like, I don't have to pick a side or a total here, but I actually am. I'm going with the first half over 24.5. You can get that widely available -110. Dude, these teams have combined for 53.8 average total points in their games, right? So if you just divide that by 2, that's like 27 per half. And also, that's pretty close to the expected score combined they've had, which is 52.8, right? So divide that by 2. 26.5 or so per half. And then just looking at each team's offense, so not looking at their defense, how much they've allowed, which has actually been right around this 24.5 number. These teams combine to score 33, or I should say individually, 33.3 first half points per game. So, when you look at their averages, but in the second half, it's just 25.5 second half points per game scored by these offenses average, right? So 33.5 basically in the first half that these teams are averaging combined. So yeah, we could see a very high scoring first half. And then, these teams have combined also to have nearly 64 full minutes of possession. So I do want to adjust that down to around 60 minutes, of course, but I'm still getting well over the full game total of 50 points. So, obviously I'm getting well over the full game total. 24.5 is really nice, given the full game is 50. And there are also some really massive second half, like pace and pass run split implications. This game will slow down a lot if Baltimore is ahead in the second half. Baltimore, 40% difference between their pass rate when they're trailing versus when they're leading in the second half. That's second most in the NFL. So want to avoid the second half portion of the total here. That's why I'm just taking the first half, especially because I personally lean Baltimore -3.5. It's just a lean. They're a little bit the unlucky team here by the luck rankings. And then also, I love the plus matchup factors for both offenses here. Tampa Bay prefers to throw, and Baltimore is a pass funnel. They're 21st versus the pass in DVOA. 3rd versus the rush. So Tampa Bay prefers to pass, and that's the way to attack Baltimore. Lamar Jackson also gets a plus matchup in the passing game. He has a little bit below a 6 adjusted net yards per attempt versus man coverage, but 10.5 versus all other coverages. And thankfully for him, Tampa Bay plays man coverage at the 6th lowest rate. So a lot of plus matchup factors in both passing offenses.
Yeah, it totally feels like if you're looking at both football games in general, this is the one where fireworks can come, and targeting that first half, as you mentioned, seems like the smarter play. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are not one to, be shy of running the football, running the clock out between Lamar and Henry. They can really take chunks of time off, but you don't really do that in the first half. You do that in the second half with the lead. So an over makes me feel good to start this show. Sean, surely you're going with an over as well in this one.
Absolutely not. I am going to go with Rashad White under 7.5 rush attempts. You can get it -110 at DK. I saw his rushing yards prop open at 34.5 a couple days ago, and I knew there was a 0% chance it'd be over 30 by the time we went on air. It's all the way down to like 25.5 now. So I think the under on his rush attempts at 7.5 is the way to go now. But this is a matchup against a clear pass funnel defense in the Ravens. They rank 21st in DVOA against the pass, third against the run. And this just sets up perfectly for the Buccaneers, who are a pass-heavy offense. And not only is White coming back from a foot injury that forced him to miss week 6, so he might not even be 100% tonight, but this backfield has basically turned into a full-blown three-way committee with Bucky Irving, outplaying Rashad White all season. But last week, Sean Tucker had a breakout game. Ended up being the highest scoring running back in all of fantasy last week. I'm not shocked because, he only went undrafted due to medical concerns, but he flashed enough upside at Syracuse to be a potential mid-round pick. But like I said, he didn't get drafted just because of his medical history. But I think we're seeing that come to fruition where he's a very talented back. He's earned more carries here, and the coaching staff has even said each running back's going to get a drive, then they're going to go with a hot hand. So maybe White only sees one of the first 3 drives, so he's going to see a few carries possibly on his drive. But after that, they're going to go with the hot hand, and there's not that many running back attempts to go around anyway. So it just really lowers White's floor here, he struggled to clear 9.5 rush attempts back when it was a 2-way committee, and they were in positive game script. So imagine they get down here and it's a 3-way committee. So just a very low floor here. I'm projecting him closer to 6.9 with about a 60% chance he stays under 7.5.
Yeah, this really feels like if the Bucs knew what they were doing, that he would be in for pass coverage situations and passing situations, as opposed to Bucky and Sean Tucker, who have been absolutely dominant on the ground. And you mentioned the hot hand approach. I see the logic on this one. Totally agree with you. A sharper way to attack, now that the line has moved almost 10 yards for Rashad White, going with the under on attempts is Sean Koerner. All right, guys, let's take a look at the other game between the Cardinals and the Los Angeles Chargers. That one starting 9 p.m. Eastern, just 45 minutes after the Ravens and Bucs kick off. The most bet props over at BetMGM is headlined by none other than J.K. Dobbins having a revival of a season. His rushing yards and longest rusher, 2 of the 3 most bet props, with Gus Edwards on the injured reserve. Vidal now the backup over there in L.A., and we know the Chargers and Harbaugh like to run the football. Marvin Harrison Jr., meanwhile, has been medically cleared from his concussion, and him to net 50-plus yards comes in at second of the 5 most bet props over at BetMGM. So, guys, we won't waste any time. Sean, I'm going to kick it right back to you. Your favorite prop on this one is a defensive player prop, and I believe it's DraftKings with the best available. So please tell me more.
Yeah, so this is a tackles and assist prop, and it's Alohi Gilman of the Chargers under 5.5 tackles plus assists at -125 over at DraftKings. But Gilman's coming off a 10 tackle game against the Broncos last time out, but that was the best matchup possible for safeties like Gilman because the Broncos actually allow 5+ more tackles to safeties than league average, whereas the Cardinals are more middle of the pack. So his projection goes down a bit here, but he plays deep safety most of the time. Last week he played deep around 92% of the time. Week 4 he played in the box a ton because Derwin James is out due to his suspension. So anytime Derwin James is healthy, Gilman's going to play deep. And that means it's just tougher for him to see a ton of tackle opportunities. So he's not really involved in run plays. And I think this is a game where the Chargers are going to see more running back rush attempts. So that's going to kind of lower his projected tackles a bit. He's going to need big plays downfield. So a completed pass to Marvin Harrison Jr. downfield, Trey McBride, catch and run, 15+ yards. Those are the types of plays he'll get tackles on. And I do have him involved in about a handful of those. So I'm projecting him closer to 4.9 tackles and assists here. So we're getting some decent value because I'm showing like a 59% chance he stays under 5.5 tackles here.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think that the fact that I had to Google this guy to make sure he was real character and not someone that we made on like Xbox or a Wii probably makes you feel good that I had no idea. But I totally get the logic, and I totally understand, even though you're coming with me with 2 unders, Sean. At least I have Nick Giffen here to lift my spirits up with another over. This time, Nick, you're targeting Justin Herbert in the passing game, in which, by the way, we know just about minimal about who the Chargers are actually going to trot out at wide receiver this weekend, tonight. So, Nick, tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, we might be getting really nice over value here on Justin Herbert, 1.5 passing touchdowns. You can get it like plus 170 right now. And that's because essentially, we got a bunch of wide receivers banged up here, but I don't really care about that too much, right? I care much more about the matchup here. 4 of the 5 opponents that Justin Herbert has faced this year have allowed at or below league average touchdown passes per game, and he had 1 touchdown pass in all 4 of those games. The other, Carolina Panthers, they allowed the 3rd most passing touchdowns per game, and Herbert cleared the 1.5 in that game. He had 2. Well, Arizona's much closer to Carolina in the passing game than all those other 4 opponents. They allow the 6th most passing touchdowns per game. They also have the 2nd highest completion percentage allowed, 2nd highest yards per pass attempt allowed. They're a pass funnel defense, right? 29th in defensive DVOA versus the pass, 14th versus the run. So not as funnily as the Ravens, but still a bit of a funnel here. And Arizona also, in terms of game script, has been a little bit the unlucky team by our luck rankings. So, if they cover, the Chargers are more likely to pass. So Herbert could go over that way. Or if the Chargers cover, it could be because Herbert's throwing some passing touchdowns. So this makes this game prop, or this script, I should say, this prop, let's get it there, this prop relatively script impervious. So I like the fact that we can hit it either way here.
Yeah, this totally makes sense. And listen, I understand, J.K. Dobbins has 17.5 rush attempts, and he's going to get a lot of carries, that's for sure. But, come the red zone, come the situation where Arizona is weakest, it is in the passing game. Their defense has been absolutely abysmal there. So definitely an area that you can take advantage of, regardless of who you're throwing out at wide receiver. We'll have to keep an eye on that in general. And then just a quick follow-up. Obviously, Nick, bet what happens live at the 2-minute warning of, is it both games tonight?
Yeah, we'll probably be going at halftime of the first game, and because they tend to stagger where once we finish the first game, the second game is at or near halftime. We'll just go right at halftime of the first game and go through to the second game and a little bet what happens live action with myself and Grant Neiffer.
Right, and we'll hear from Grant Neiffer in just a second as well. And also a perfect way to tune in for this Chargers game. If you want to get in live, there's about, no receiving props, maybe just Ladd McConkey available right now. So if you want to get more involved from just a pregame standpoint, make sure to check out.
And Charlie, that first half total that I gave, that's that second half for the Ravens, Tampa Bay, very game script dependent. So that could be a great live betting spot as well.
Yeah, see, there you go. And so be always sure to tune into Bet What Happens Live. Maybe we get a couple of touchdowns. I know I'll be tuning in. But Sean, Nick, go get ready for the island. We gotta head out soon. But I'll catch you guys in just a bit. Let's take a look at the top 5 touchdown scores from each game of the Monday Night Football Doubleheader. Let's start with a little bit of a surprise. Just kidding. Derrick Henry, minus 210 to lead the charge and find the end zone for Baltimore. He has been a touchdown monster since coming over with Lamar Jackson under center. As for rookie Bucky Irving, he has flown up the ranks for Tampa Bay and is now the #1 Buccaneers RB at plus 140 to find the end zone. Has quickly become the red zone running back. On the opposite side, J.K. Dobbins, James Koerner, the pair of running backs at 1 and 2. J.K. Dobbins has become the workhorse back in a revival with the LA Chargers and Harbaugh. And then Kyler Murray to find the end zone, rounding us out of the top 5. He comes in at plus 250. And now we welcome in Grant Neiffer for a little 4-down territory here on Green Dot Daily. Guys, if it's your first time watching, here's how it's going to work. Grant's going to start us off with first down pick, and then each one up to 4. The odds are going to get progressively longer. So Grant, you start us out, a little minus money touchdown pick, and it's one of the aforementioned guys in J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, no, J.K. Dobbins anytime touchdown score sitting around 120 to minus 120 to minus 140. I got it minus 120. He's just been fantastic for this team. He's been so
Mm-hmm.
good. Great matchup going up against the Cardinals. Cardinals have been a bottom 3 defense versus the run. And the Chargers this year, even though they have Justin Herbert, they've been running the ball a ton. Passing the ball right around 50%, running it right around 50%, and their pass rate over expectation, bottom 5 in the league. Dobbins is the workhorse back in this offense here. No Gus Edwards, not playing anymore on the IR. Dobbins has been getting just boatloads of carries every single game. Doesn't have a ton of red zone touches, but again, he was splitting that backfield at the early games of the season. So Dobbins probably going to be a huge part of this offense. Great matchup. And the wide receiving core for the Chargers, a little bit banged up right now. We don't even know who's going to be playing, but we know Dobbins is going to be rushing the ball a lot regardless of who's in there.
Right, yeah, 17.5 is his over-under on rush attempts, and you mentioned it. Gus Edwards being out really gives Dobbins just even more of a workload and even more red zone carries, and it feels like if they're getting inside the 5, it's probably Dobbins for 2 or even 3 carries before he gets into the end zone against this Arizona rush defense. On second down, I'll take us up a little bit, but I'm going to stick around the minus money still. Michael Wilson, 30-plus receiving yards, is minus 110 over at Bet365. And we were kind of talking about this off air just a little bit with Marvin Harrison. The Chargers run zone at one of the highest rates in the NFL, and they actually are 31st in DVOA to the wide receiver 2 position. I think this is a perfect game for Michael Wilson, who has found success of late. And when you look at the numbers between him versus zone and man coverage, it's night and day. Against man coverage, he has a 0.4 yards per route run. Yeah, 0.4. And then against zone coverage, that number jumps up to 1.78. So not only is he getting a better matchup against this Chargers second cornerback situation, that's also their secondary a bit banged up, but he's now getting a zone coverage defense in which he has been, a lot more successful against rather than man, which Marvin Harrison sees about like a 10% target share drop off when it comes to zone versus man coverage. So a minus 110 prop over from me to start us off with Michael Wilson. On the third down, we're going to head to the other game, Grant, a game that I think, it'd be safe to say we expect more fireworks in between the Bucs and the Ravens, and you're going into plus money territory for an anytime touchdown.
Yeah, no, this game is going to be fun. This game could see something similar to what we saw with the Commanders-Ravens matchup. I'm going with Godwin plus 165 is what his odds are setting out right now for a touchdown. Don't even hate the first touchdown score. I sprinkled a little money on that one. Godwin has been fantastic this season. He's taken over the lead wide receiver spot in this offense. Evans has still been good, but Godwin has separated himself, especially that last game. Has 5 touchdowns on the season. Has scored in 4 out of 6 games so far this year. Gets a great matchup versus the Ravens. Ravens overall decent defense, but they've been absolutely crushed in the passing game so far this season, giving up the most passing yards per game while allowing the least amount of rushing yards per game. They are a clear pass funnel. The Bucs, they like to run the ball, even though they're not very efficient at it when White's in the game. They're going to mix things up with their running backs, but they're going to struggle with the run. And with a high total in this game, we can expect a lot of work for Godwin in this spot. I'm not going to be surprised if he's got 10 targets in this game. And in the red zone, he's been targeted just one less time than Mike Evans so far this year, who Evans historically has been one of the best red zone threats for a wide receiver over the course of his career. So Godwin's kind of turning into Mike Evans late in the red zone. Going to get the volume there. Odds way too high considering how good he's been. He's probably just as close to scoring a touchdown for his odds as Mike Evans is, yet we're getting an extra 25 points here.
Yeah, what a 180 for Chris Godwin. Last year it was like 2 touchdowns in the regular season. We kept asking ourselves, when is he going to find the end zone? And then all of a sudden this season, it's just been touchdown galore. He's really solidified himself. Like he's been more successful than Mike Evans in this offense just from a total yards perspective. And then you mentioned it, the red zone opportunities, it's kind of neck and neck between the two. So I love this one with Chris Godwin. I'm going to go back to the other game. Listen, I think there's an anytime touchdown that's a bit undervalued, and I think it's Trey McBride at plus 270 for the Arizona Cardinals. He does not have a touchdown this season. Yet you look at last year and even this year's numbers, when it comes to red zone targets, he's among the top guys. Yes, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s come in and become, Kyler Murray's favorite target. But I mentioned his struggles against zone coverage, or at least the drop-off in target share. The guy who sees the most benefit is Trey McBride, a 7% jump when it comes to man versus zone coverage. And, even in red zone targets, he has 3. Marvin Harrison has 4. So it's not like it's night and day between the two. It's still neck and neck. It seems like an inevitable time that Trey McBride is going to find the end zone, especially with having none this season. So I think at close to 3-1, and even if you wait till game time, it might even jump up to 3-1. Trey McBride has such I think value compared to some of the other guys in the market, like Harrison, who's around plus 140, plus 150. I'm curious your thoughts before I let you go, Grant, on the Arizona situation as a whole, right? I keep mentioning the zone coverage, but I haven't gotten your opinion on how you think things are going to shake out from an Arizona offensive perspective.
I mean, it's always tough to kind of figure this out. I mean, we got the strength of the Arizona Cardinals with their offense and the strength of the Chargers, which is their defense. So anytime you have strength versus strength, there's such a wide range of outcomes. But I think that this game is probably going to be pretty close. I think that more likely lean towards the over for both teams and their team total. I think that the Chargers are going to do a little bit more on the offensive side in this game. I think Dobbins in for a big game, but the Cardinals side, I think that they're going to have a decent game there. I think that they can probably they're going to be playing catch up most of the game, and their offense is going to do some work. But I think a lot of the volume is not going to be going towards Marvin Harrison. I think it's going to be going towards the other guys. So it's tough to figure out which ones, but we know McBride always is going to get volume in this offense. He's been the safety net for Kyler the entire time he's been in the league. And McBride is going to get his in this spot, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And hoping for fireworks just all together. A quick recap of 4-down territory. We've got J.K. Dobbins, anytime touchdown at minus 120. Michael Wilson, 30-plus receiving yards at minus 110. Hopefully, it's an anybody but MHJ day for this Arizona offense. And then Grant going with Chris Godwin, anytime touchdown at plus 165 in that Ravens one. And then I rounded out 4th down, just short of 3-1 with a Trey McBride anytime touchdown. Grant, thank you for hopping on, and we'll talk again on the island in just a bit. Unfortunately, I was not able to complete the ladder challenge the first time around, but I'm able to get a mulligan. Well, not really a mulligan, but we're going to start again on day 1 here on Monday Night Football because that Saints-Broncos game was just ugly. Shout out Cortland Sutton. Next time, maybe catch a football. On to Monday Night Football, though, in day 1. We're going to start with Chris Godwin, 40-plus receiving yards. It's a number he's been over in every single game this season. I'm expecting fireworks between Tampa and Baltimore. Chris Godwin, one of the guys that has such a high volume. Next up, Lamar Jackson, 25-plus rushing yards. We're watching Baltimore give Lamar Jackson a lot more design runs, and against a Tampa defense that blitzes at a very high rate, expect Lamar to use his legs plenty. The next one, Mike Evans, 25-plus receiving yards. You put all 3 of those in an explosive Monday Night Football game between the Bucs and the Ravens. You get close to minus 150, minus 180. Evans been in over this number in all but one. And then the last one to finish us all off in that Arizona Chargers game, Trey McBride. Oh, reliable 4-plus receptions. He's number 1 in yards per route run and target rate against zone coverage, and that's exactly what the Chargers do. So expect dump-offs aplenty from Kyler Murray on Monday Night Football. You put all 4 of those legs together, you get a little over plus 100 over at FanDuel. So hopefully, I'll see you again for day 2 on Thursday. Now let's take a look at how the market stands ahead of this Monday Night Football doubleheader. No surprise as the favorites are taking in the majority of the bets. Baltimore close to 70%, while the Chargers, as slight 1.5-point road favorites, are just under 60%. We've kind of seen road favorites the last 2 weeks have really been successful unless your name is the New York Jets. As for the overs, the total in this one, the overs are getting the majority of love in this one with 3/4 of the tickets coming in on each game. Fireworks expected, definitely between Baltimore and Tampa. More on our thoughts in this Chargers and Cardinals game in just a second as we welcome in Billy Ward to make a same-game parlay, as we always do on Monday and Thursdays. Billy, with a doubleheader, we're going to do a little SGP Plus. I know you have a write-up over at the Action Network where you got close to 15-1. Well, our 4 legs together, they're not going to quite get there, but they'll get close to double digits. Let's start in this Baltimore-Tampa game. You give us the first leg. Where are we headed?
Yeah, I'm going Mike Evans over 56.5 receiving yards. If you check out the article, I have Rachaad White under rushing yards. That's moved about 10 yards since then, so obviously that one's not a play. But we're kind of coming from the same point on this prop, which is But Tampa Bay is going to have to throw a lot. They're going to be chasing points. Even if they get ahead, they know they need to keep putting points on the board to score on Baltimore. And Baltimore is a bit of a pass funnel. They're much better at defending the run than they are the pass. That makes it more difficult for them to establish the ground game, ergo throwing the ball. And then Mike Evans specifically, he has a 20+% target share. It's pretty much him and Godwin make up the majority of the production here. Evans has the deeper A dot, doesn't take him many catches to clear this line. And it's one of the few Tampa overs that our props tool likes based on our projection. So kind of everything pointing that way. Wish I could still be giving you a Rachaad White rushing under, but those are long gone.
Yeah, Mike Evans, his over definitely makes sense here. Cleared he was injured entering the week of practice, was a full participant, so he's off the injury report. And like you said, Rachaad White's under rushing yards has moved so much. That coming out of Todd Bowles saying that they're going to ride with the hot hand between White, Tucker, and Bucky Irving. And I think it's safe to say that White might be the worst pure running back of the three in the passing game, is probably where he'll see most of his work. I'm going to give out a rushing over. I'm going to pair this with Mike Evans a little bit. I'm going with Lamar Jackson over on rushing yards. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, Billy. I think we both kind of agree that if whichever of the two is going to be the higher scoring, it's going to be this one between the Ravens and the Bucs. And Lamar Jackson, in particular, the addition of Derrick Henry, I think, has really, helped round out Lamar's game. He doesn't have to pass as much. He doesn't have to just rely on his running back doing well. They now can do design run plays. He's had 7+ in 4 of the 6 games this season, double-digit rushes in the same amount of games. So we're seeing Baltimore look to get Lamar the ball, Lamar to run with the football in space. And also, not to mention, the Buccaneers defense blitz at such a high rate that should lead to a couple extra scrambles for Lamar. I think the perfect opportunity for both of us here is a game script where it's a higher scoring game script. A back and forth close game means the Bucs are going to be passing more, means that the Ravens are going to be looking to do more damage with Lamar Jackson, aka he will be using his legs a bit more. So 2 overs to pair us and start us off with this SGP plus. Let's shift gears now. Let's look toward the Cardinals Chargers game in particular. This one, though, I mentioned at the top, the public liking the over, but we're going to start off, Billy, with an under.
Yeah, I mean, the public is taking the favorite and over in every game. It's just what public money is. Yeah, I'm going under 44.5 if you can find it, 44 if not, depends on where you shop. The Chargers are the best scoring defense in football. They have allowed the fewest amount of points. And it kind of feels like Arizona has this explosive offense, but if you look at the stats, they really don't. They're pretty average in terms of total scoring, not standing out in DVOA either way. And then on the other side of the ball, the Chargers, all they want to do is run. They do not want to throw unless they have to. Arizona is a bit of a pass funnel. They're better at stopping the run. So it kind of lines up where I don't see either team putting up a big score here. The way this goes over is if it's back and forth and we get 24-21, all we need is one team to get a lead and kill the clock. Both teams are capable of doing that. Both teams want to run. Not super explosive in the ground game, but a lot of 3 or 4 yard carries to J.K. Dobbins or James Conner, and that makes it fairly easy to hit the under. Like this one, yeah, like I said, keep an eye on the lines. If we can get 44.5 everywhere, obviously we want that extra half point.
Yeah, definitely critical down the stretch, especially with a mid-40s number like that. And, it's interesting. You mentioned J.K. Dobbins' rush attempts, I think, is 17.5 in this one. So, you're expecting a lot of run. James Conner, also a workhorse type style back. I'm going to go with another over here, kind of give us a little bit of extra juice, and it's targeting James Conner. I think, looking at this game and this matchup, both rush defenses are pretty strong, especially, or at least the Chargers is one of the best in football. But where you can kind of break them down and attack them is that they are a zone coverage pass defense. So you can work the middle of the field, you can work small and short distances, feed like tight end Trey McBride or a dump off to James Conner. And if you look at the Chargers' recent games, 7 running backs in the 5 total games that the Chargers have played in have gone over 11 plus receiving yards. So they're giving up dump offs. They're giving up 2 to 3 receptions to multiple running backs. It's not just 1 or 2. So yes, DeMercado might get his, but I also think James Conner here, who is starting to see an uptick in the receiving game, who had, 1 target in weeks 2 through 4, and then all of a sudden the last couple of weeks has gotten, 3, 4, 5 targets. I don't know. It just feels like a great opportunity here to buy James Conner. I know the projections also like this one from Koerner and Raybon. I'm curious your thoughts in general with this one. It feels like, Marvin Harrison Jr. sees a downtick in targets when it comes to zone coverage. That allows for guys like Michael Wilson and Koerner to step up. I'm curious your thoughts on Koerner in general.
Yeah, I like it because we're getting anti-correlated prices, right? We're taking the under and a over, which gives us a better price. But any pass that's getting checked down to James Conner is one that's not going downfield 60 yards to Marvin Harrison, not getting Trey McBride over the deep intermediate part of the field. Those passes to Conner, they keep the clock running if he catches them. It's a higher completion rate to running backs, and they probably don't go as far as those other passes. So I like how that lines up with our parlay, especially when you consider the bonus points and the odds we're getting. Most importantly, I would say, is the odds, of course.
Yeah, a dink and dunk type of day for Arizona would be strong for us. A couple runs, a couple of dump offs to James Conner. To just recap our SGP plus, we've got Mike Evans over 56.5 receiving yards. Lamar Jackson over 51.5 rushing yards, hoping for some explosive plays in the first game. And then completely opposite in game number 2, the under 44.5, if you can grab that over at FanDuel. And then James Conner, also best number available, 10.5 receiving yards at FanDuel, 11.5 everywhere else you look. You put all 4 of those together, you get close to 10-1. Billy, how do we feel about this SGP?
Yeah, I like it. I know I sound a little salty complaining about not getting my Rachaad White the next day, but it's a logical alternative to that, like going against the public with the under as well. That always makes it feel like we're getting the better price when everyone's piling in on the over.
Yes, and as a reminder, go read Billy Ward's article at Action Network when it drops right away. That's how you can get some of the edges on props like Rachaad White, because the line has since moved completely out of play. But Billy Ward, appreciate you hopping on, and enjoy the football, my friend. We'll talk Thursday.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you want all of Action Pro's projections, make sure to sign up for our annual subscription that is currently on sale. Access includes exclusive player pop picks from Sean Koerner and other members of the Action Analytics team. You'll also get access to exclusive expert articles, our best spread, money line and total bets, and real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today and use code GDD20 at sign up. One more time, that's code GDD20 at sign up for $20 off. And over to the Cayman Islands. We have a little Action Island presented for you today. We're going to focus on the game with a little bit more fireworks expected. Yep, that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Baltimore Ravens. Gilles Gallant could not make our flight. He actually missed it, so we had to call in our backup, Grant Neiffer, and he made our flight. He's coming here to the Cayman Islands alongside Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen. If it's your first time watching Action Island, here's how things are going to go. Each of these experts are going to give out 2 possible options for a same-game parlay. We're going to vote one in and then vote one out, and the end result, a 3-leg SGP to get you through Monday Night Football. Nick Giffen, you are up first, my friend. Where are we headed for the possible first 2 legs?
Yeah, well, I am going to go with the pick I gave out for this game earlier, and that is the first half over for Baltimore and Tampa Bay. Like I said, everything here pointing to the over, especially in the first half, team's first half splits, advantageous quarterback matchups, and both expected scores and team actual scores going way over not only the first half total, but also the full game total. I just want to focus on the first half here because of the second half implications. So first pick, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, first half over 24.5 points. Second pick, I am going to go with the prop I've been on all year, Baker Mayfield, over half an interception, minus 135. Look, I just, Baker, he tends to have turnover-worthy plays. He was at 3.5% last year. He's at 3% this year, already 5 interceptions. And Baltimore's defense, they only have 3 interceptions, but they've been incredibly unlucky. So that may be factoring a little bit of a discount in the market. Baltimore's defense has 10 turnover-worthy plays forced this year. That'd be closer to 6 interceptions normally, and they only have 3. They also have 29 passes defended, which again would be closer to around 5.5 interceptions. So definitely below expectation versus how good this defense has been. Maybe just a couple of unlucky bounces on those potential interceptions turn into luckier bounces or luckier catches, maybe not some drops, things like that. And Baker Mayfield throws a pick.
Yeah, definitely feels both of these I definitely like a lot. And it feels like Baker Mayfield, always the guy that has the turnover-worthy plays, has kind of gotten lucky. And then last week we saw the interceptions start to come in. I don't think there's going to be any shortage against a good Baltimore Ravens defense. And one that you mentioned earlier is a pass funnel, so probably going to see more pass attempts, probably more chances for an INT. So Grant, Sean, we've got to get to voting. Baker INT or the first half over? All right, Baker INT or the first half over to start us off on this Monday night SGP. Let's show them in 3, 2, 1. Baker, first half over out of Grant. All right, we have Baker INT as the first leg of this SGP. Sean, I'll kick it to you first. Or I guess, yeah, Sean, I'll kick it to you. Why did you go with Baker INT with alongside myself?
This has been a long-standing Nick special, so we got to roll with it. Plus, this will help my Rachaad White under 7.5 attempts. I mean, they throw a pick, getting a trailing game script. So love his reasoning here. I think this is the way to go.
Yeah, the game script helping that, and definitely could also help the first half over if it comes early in on that game. I think this one, obviously, we talked about it earlier, has a chance for fireworks. Grant and I talked on 4-down territory. This one really feels like a high-scoring game that's inevitable to happen. But we'll move on. Baker INT as the first leg of this SGP. Grant Neiffer, you are up, my friend. What 2 legs are we looking at here?
So the first one I'm going with is Justice Hill over 15.5 receiving yards. I got a 15.5. You can find it between 16 and 17.5 right now. Might still keep moving, so you can get in now. Would probably be better. But he's been good this season. Like, I know he hasn't done too much in the last 2 games, 2 and 8 receiving yards, but he still had a fairly high snap count. A lot of this game should favor a little bit of passing to the running back. The Bucs have been just terrible at defending receiving running backs, giving up, I think, the 3rd most receiving yards to opposing running backs on the year, and they played one less game. Like, their defense just kind of will funnel a little bit of passes there. I expect there to be a lot of plays in this game. Expect there to be a lot of scoring. Obviously, Derrick Henry's going to be in there 50-60% of the snaps, and he's going to be running the ball a ton. But Justice Hill, he's been solid this season. He's gotten 6+ catches twice this year. So the over is number 3 out of 5 or 6 games this year. But I think he's in for a decent game here. This line just seems too low, and I mean, it's kind of evident by it moving, and I still think it's too low. And then the other one I'm going with, Baker Mayfield over passing yards. You can get between 254 and 259.5. The Ravens are massive pass funnel, giving up 3 yards per run on the year. Dead last in the league in allowing passing yards. First in the league in rushing yards by a decent amount. This is going to be a high-scoring game. There's a 50 total here. Baker's going to be passing. The Bucs already pass at the 3rd highest clip in the league and 3rd highest pass rate over expectation. So Baker's going to be slinging the ball all game long. This is a spot where they're probably going to be trailing with a 3.5-point spread, but even if it's close, they're still going to pass the ball a lot. This line's just a bit too low here. I like both these bets, but you guys pick which one you want.
Yeah, I like both of these as well. Grant, we needed you here because Nick and Sean usually come with the unders. I need someone in my life to help me push me toward an over. It makes sense with Justice Hill and also the blitz-heavy Bucs defense, probably a couple more dump-offs that are in order to the running back. And then Baker, we talked about the Ravens being a pass funnel. It feels like he's going to be dropping back early and often. All right, Nick, Sean, we've got to get the voting. Justice Hill over receiving or Baker Mayfield over passing yards? All right, we've got the Justice Hill over 15.5 receiving or Baker Mayfield 260 plus passing. Let's show them. 3, 2, 1. Justice Hill, Baker. All right, doubling up with Baker Mayfield. We've got INT now over passing yards. Nick, why did you end up going with Baker over Justice Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is a massive pass funnel defense, right? Tampa Bay more likely to trail. So Baker can be pretty efficient, especially if he throws, kind of an early pick, gets them down. correlates almost, right? A pick typically sounds negative for the over passing yards, but a pick would be a good thing, especially if it leads to a quick Ravens score, right? So, yeah, I love this over here.
Yeah, hopefully it happens in their side of the territory. We can get a quick score, as you mentioned. Correlate well with the first leg of our SGP, which was Baker interception. The second leg now, the over on Baker's passing yards. Sean Koerner, round us out with our two plays to choose from.
All right, so my first one, I'm going with the sack prop here. Nnamdi Madubuike of the Ravens to record a sack, sacking Baker Mayfield nonetheless, if you want to make this a true Baker parlay. You get this at plus 140 at Bet365. Love the value you're getting there, but he got off to a bit of a slow start, but he's been on fire lately. 17 pressures over the last 4 games. That's the second most among defensive tackles. And Baker doesn't face too much pressure, thanks to Tristan Wirfs taking care of his blind side, but he can be prone to pressure coming up the middle. He's been sacked on 28% of pressures this season, which is a very high rate for a quarterback and is typically a stat the quarterback can control and is pretty predictive going forward. So I have Madubuike getting around 3.5 pressures here, with about a 57% chance he actually gets home to Baker. So again, love the value we're getting here at plus 140. And for my other one, I'm going back to the Rachaad White prop that I'm talking about, under 25.5 rushing yards. This is a matchup we've kind of discussed is just being a clear pass funnel matchup for the Buccaneers. The Ravens ranked 21st in DVOA against pass, 3rd against the run. So I think it just sets up perfect for this pass-heavy offense. And, White's coming back from a foot injury that, forced him to miss last week. Not sure if he's 100%. And this sounds like a full-blown 3-way running back committee with Sean Tucker making some noise last week. And Bucky Irving has been playing Rachaad White all season. So I think it's going to be tough for White to see enough carries here to clear this number.
Yeah, Todd Bowles saying he's riding with the hot hand in a 3-man backfield. And you mentioned it, coming back from injury. Feels like Rachaad White is fade material on this one. And then going Madubuike to get a sack. Those are our two options. A little plus money prop. Should we make it a 3-way Baker Mayfield SGP, or do we go with Rachaad White under on rushing yards? Nick, Grant, let's get to voting. All right, do we go with a defensive prop, or are we sticking true with the offensive way? Let's show them in 3, 2, 1. Madubuike, Rachaad White. All right, all Buccaneers props. Instead of doing a Baker Mayfield SGP, we're just doing a Buccaneers SGP, rooting for a lot of Baker Mayfield and not a lot of Rachaad White. Grant, I'll ask you, why did you end up with White over the sack prop on Madubuike?
Well, I mean, other than the fact that I don't think I could spell, White going up against, I don't know if we said this, but a pass funnel. The Ravens are just the best rush defense in the league by a wide margin. White is not good. So the hot hand thing, I can't imagine Rachaad White getting hot versus this defense. I mean, we've seen him against a good run defense in Detroit before. 10 carries, 18 yards. He's not been good. And yes, he had that 56-yard run a few weeks ago. Outside of that, I don't think he's had one longer than 17 rushing yards or 17 yards. He's not going to get a ton of volume if they're splitting this 3 ways and giving everyone a series. Like, I can't expect him to be in there late in the game. Can't expect him to be running much late in the game. And I can't expect any efficiency out of this, considering the first 3 weeks of the season. First 4 weeks, he was averaging under 3 yards per rush. Like, the volume's not going to be there, and he's not efficient, and this is a tough matchup. Everything kind of points towards the under. And plus, we may only see him get 1 to 2 carries this entire game because he's not very good, and the other guys are pretty good. So everything points toward the under here.
Yeah, it definitely does. And listen, if you're having your bingo cards at home, the word pass funnel being said 10 times in this show has just hit. We're going with Rachaad White under rushing yards as the last leg of our same game parlay. You put the 3 together, that is Baker Mayfield to throw an interception, Baker Mayfield over passing yards, and then Rachaad White under on rushing yards. You put that all together, it's plus 525 over at Bet365. All right, Nick Giffen, Grant Neiffer, Sean Koerner, appreciate you three hopping on. Best of luck tonight, and I'm feeling good about this SGP. And if we do, you know, maybe Gilles has to get sick more often, guys. So thanks. And just a reminder, obviously, Gilles, please get well soon. Baker Mayfield to throw an INT. Started off our SGP from Nick Giffen. Baker Mayfield to go over his passing yards. A little correlated parlay from Grant Neiffer. And round us out, Sean Koerner fading Rachaad White in the battle of a hot hand backfield in Tampa Bay. You put all three of those together again, you get plus 525 over at Bet365. Of course, we can't let you go without me going toe-to-toe with the wheel, and it's not really been a competition if you look back based on previous history. I mean, I went off yet again with Troy Franklin going over his receiving yards to make me improve to 10-2 year-to-date on primetime picks. As for the wheel, a loss on Spencer Rattler, going a little square with the rookie quarterback. 0-1, helping him drop down, or helping me, I guess, as he drops down the wheel to 5-7. Now a 5-game lead. I allowed the wheel. I talked to the wheel. We decided off air we're going to do this Ravens-Bucs game because the wheel likes overs. I like overs. We're expecting fireworks in this one. My pick on this game is Lamar Jackson over on rushing yards. I believe the best number is 51.5 right now. It's just a huge emphasis that we've seen on running the football out of Baltimore. With Derrick Henry now behind there, they're giving more design runs to Lamar Jackson, allow for more RPO. You look at Lamar Jackson, he's had 10-plus rushes in 4 or 6 games this season, and that doesn't even account for a Bucs defense that blitzes at an extremely high rate. They've seen guys like Bo Nix go for nearly 50. Jaden Daniels went for 88 rushing yards. So I'm expecting a big day out of Lamar. I think fireworks are coming in this game. I think he's going to go for 50-plus with ease. I think 10-plus rushes is in order for the starting quarterback of the Ravens. A lot more opportunities for him to find some success. So my best bet to Lamar Jackson over on rushing yards. Let's see what the wheel has to say. Mike Evans over 4.5 receptions. The guy coming off an injury report, questionable for Monday Night Football, but got taken off. Going with Mike Evans. I don't know how I feel about this one. I think it's kind of, I would rather him, or I guess I'd rather the wheel go with receptions over receiving yards. Last week, the wheel did Spencer Rattler passing yards over pass completions, and that did not end up too well for the wheel's sake. Mike Evans, obviously a deep ball target. So 5+ receptions seems like you're asking a lot. But again, we're talking about fireworks potentially here. So going with Lamar Jackson over on rushing yards for myself, and then the wheel rounding us out, going head-to-head with Mike Evans over 4.5 receptions. And just a reminder that any pick we give out here on the show, like the ones you heard from me against the wheel, you can easily reference by following us in the award-winning Action Network app under the handle @green.daily. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for this Monday. Enjoy the doubleheader. Enjoy, just football in general. Baseball's not on today. So go have a great rest of your day. And I'll be back here Tuesday, 3 Eastern on the Action YouTube channel and the Action app. Have a great one, everyone.